We come back with all these questions and not answers, but it's what we do when we come back, and that advocacy role is a great role to take on. Just to mention that reference there was an article about a week before we left for the reservation that talked about an increase in, particularly in the justice systems of the reservation. So that bill should be moving through, and I'll do a little more research and try to send that out to the community, because advocacy is an important role. Thank you.
With the two tribes on the reservation, was there tension between the two tribes, or are they able to live harmoniously together? Or?
I'm happy to answer that. So that's a great question. A lot of the tension still exists there. So, for example, when we first started going up there, I've heard this story that we would tell people, well, we're going to go do a sweat lodge with the Shoshone healer, and that we would hear from people of the Arapaho descent saying, be careful in your dealings with Shoshones, you know, and so there was this historical pull. I think perhaps, though, that people are beginning to band together a little bit more in understanding that in order to uplift their community, they're going to have to work together to do it. But there's definitely a division. There's a Shoshone side of the reservation. There's an Arapaho side of the reservation. The Shoshones get more money in their, there's like a government stipend that you get for the minerals that are being extracted for the reservation. They get more money than the Arapahos do because they're less in the Shoshone tribe, so I think there's some resentment there. But there's definitely this idea that they were put on this reservation together intentionally so that they could, like I said, possibly kill each other off, or, you know, deal with each other, and then we wouldn't have to. So it's still prevalent today, definitely. Other questions?
You know, as I recall, a big issue on tribes is pregnancy, teen pregnancy, young people pregnancy. Did that come up at all in the sexual, and what are these kids used?
Well, one of the 8th grade students was pregnant when we were there. I would say the 8th grade class maybe had 50 students in it, maybe. So it was right there. Everyone was very well aware of it. So that issue did come up. We did discuss teen pregnancy and just the realities of teen pregnancy. We talked about how much money a baby costs just in the first year, things like that. So we did try and talk about those issues. But yeah, it was definitely an issue that was in the community at the time we were there.
There's a lady that works in the library of the school. Her name's Jenny, runs Close to Lodge, and she's kind of the cultural expert in the school. And she was telling us about how, going back to these boarding schools, how there's a whole generation of parents now on the reservation that don't know how to be parents, because when they were young, the age of their kids now, they were taken into these boarding schools. And so, and there's this idea that pervades the reservation that the schools are supposed to raise the kids and not the parents, because that's what they saw in these boarding schools. So a lot of those kinds of issues are not addressed at home, and they're forced to be addressed at the school, because that's just not how it was done in the past. And so I think there is a focus on trying to help parents gain those kinds of parenting skills that they didn't learn growing up. So.
Yeah, can I add something to that? So the kids, they were all really knowledgeable about teen pregnancy, and I mean, they knew like the textbook stuff, like on everything else that we gave them. But I think it was a lack of, I mean, not a lack of, but there's that motivation, and like you said, the family connection of it, and I think that was the biggest issue with teen pregnancy and just sex in general.
And it's not just a Native American issue, it's a societal issue. I mean, there are teen pregnancies all over. Kids are having sex younger and younger. And I think it was just because it is a smaller population, it was easier to see.
Sharif, what's the process for faculty and students and staff to do this? Is there, assuming there's some kind of limit to the numbers, and is it applying to somebody, or what does that look like?
Sure. So we offer several different immersions for any students or faculty that are involved, or staff. we do Winder River twice a year, one in the fall, and so each one, it aligns with different programs, breaks. So I think a lot of you in here are May accelerated students. So the trip that's available to that particular program is the trip to Appalachia in West Virginia. And with faculty, and so what we'll do is we'll advertise to all the students, get their applications, but at the same time, we'll send out applications to faculty members of the programs that are participating, and then faculty will have the opportunity to participate in that. And we're actually going to be sending out the 2010-2011 immersion calendar sometime this week, so you'll be able to see those dates on your calendar.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Is the Winder River Reservation trip not available to the May cohort?
It's not, because it doesn't align with your guys' break. Your only break is in December, and driving up to Wyoming in December is like a death trap. So, we actually used to do it in March with the May cohort, but the last like 5 years that we've tried to go up there, it's turned into a blizzard. And I think, Joni, were you on that trip when people were looking at the lines of the road? And so it just doesn't align with your break, unfortunately. Other questions?
Do you find that, the students that are there, that you're working with, is there like the dynamic to stick to the reservation and stay with, the same habits and, as their parents, and like there's that kind of dynamic, like they're faithful and loyal to their family versus getting educated and,
Yeah.
leaving?
What do you want to say?
I asked that question to Jenny, the cultural person, the first year that we were there. And I said, why do people stay on the reservation? And she said it's because of fear. Because when you go off, you're by yourself. And on the reservation you have people who support you, and you have your native healing, and you also have the Indian Health Service. And there certainly are Indian Health Services, here in the metro area. But, I asked that very question. There's unemployment, there's poverty, there's alcoholism, all of these things. I thought, in my ignorance, why wouldn't you leave? But she had a wonderful, and it made so much sense to me that it's fear. And so, I'm sure also it's family, it's just like us. You want to stay close to your family, but if you're not supported out in a different world, then it's not that attractive. So, thanks for your question.
Community is really important too. Like, our regular Western culture doesn't really value community the way that these people do. I mean, family is everything. They will choose family over anything. I mean, to better themselves, to whatever. They will stay home from school, they will do whatever for their family. And so I think that, and then also the sense of they might be losing their culture. And that community is a really big thing, and they stick by each other. So, and I did some of this research because I did the medical careers, because I'm like, you don't need to go to California and go to school and never come back, but there's local things, and because I do think that that makes who they are, is that community. So
Sorry, go ahead, Judy.
I was going to say too that what strikes you when you drive on the reservation is the size of the houses are relatively small. I mean, they're just square boxes, and there are a lot of people who live in those homes, and that's why when we were on the reservation, to have that one house burned down was pretty tragic, because you don't know how many people have been left homeless because of it, and that this was not an unusual occurrence with the I don't remember statistically the fifth one that year, because of faulty wiring and things like that, but they lived together in just small homes, and there's a lot of them there together.
I would add,